One thing about CCA is that it's supposed to be a bridging property between a nursing home and living independently.
From what I hear now, it would definitely be a last resort for me.
Honestly, if I'm in my 60s, I think I just want to hang out with my girlfriend, stay together, and then we can, I don't know, do our pedicure and manicures. Hello everyone, Tiffany here with Stephen on another episode of the Deep Dive podcast. So this week, a friend celebrated the fact that this year he's going to collect his CPF.
He's turning 55.
He's turning 55, and it struck me that I know a lot of people who are turning 55 this year or who are going to turn 55 soon, and they are really in their prime of their lives. And I was surprised to learn actually that the government talked about lowering the eligibility age for community care apartments from 65 to 55.
Because these folks are actually like kind of fit and able and still doing everything ordinary folks would. But this community care apartment, which basically are smaller senior-friendly flats that offer a basic service package. So in other words, if you're older and you need some help with, carrying really heavy things or you need some medical support, these are on site to help you along. But so we're saying, a 55-year-old generally won't need all those things.
Yeah, and on top of that, in 2027, they want to try and attract more people. So the monthly fee for the basic service package will be lowered by about 18% to 75%.
Okay.
So clearly there's a move towards trying to get more and more people to subscribe to it. And we want to ask today, are these changes simply about making these apartments more affordable, or do they signal a rethink of who these homes really are for?
So to help us with that discussion today, we have with us Dr. Kelvin Tan, Senior Lecturer in Gerontology from the Singapore University of Social Sciences.
Hi, everyone.
Nicholas Mark, Chief Research Officer at MOGUL.sg.
Thank you for having me.
Let's go through the changes. So the big first major shift is that the eligibility age is now lowered to 55 years old. Kelvin, I want to start with you. Why do you think the government made this change?
Actually, 55 is still a pretty young age to start thinking of the options when you are, at a certain age like 60 or 65 to decide what kind of housing models are there. But I believe the government probably would like to have some sounding board to understand whether there is such a group of 55, for example, to be really seriously thinking about the options at their age. And this will allow them to have some idea, the popularity of CCAs among this group of younger Singaporeans.
Yeah, I guess also because not too long ago, back in 2021, when the first CCA Harmony Village was launched in Bukit Batok, that was actually massively oversubscribed. So maybe they were thinking this would be as well. But, fast forward to a few years and now, in fact, some of them have been undersubscribed. So Nicholas, I mean, is this have anything to do with it as a property issue, or is it the type of flat that they're moving to, the location?
I think it's all of the above. Now, first of all, CCA is one of the smallest flat that HDB built. It ranges about 36 to 38 square meters. Okay. Compare that with, it's basically a one-room HDB flat. Now, compare that with a two-room flexi, which is about in the 48 square meters. The two-room flexi is actually a bit bigger, and seniors can also apply for that. That's number one. And number two is that the CCA basically have no capital appreciation. Now, the person who applies for it, they are supposed to make sure that you have enough runway, the lease can last you until about age 95. And if, let's say, somewhere along the way, the person doesn't need it anymore, he can't sell it on the resale market. He has to sell it back to the government, and the government will appraise the value based on the straight line depreciation method. Which means they will, depending on how much is the lease left, it's pretty straightforward. It's just decline by the same amount of a percentage every year. Now, which means that you are in a way consuming the lease. Yeah. So, and another thing is that for CCA to apply for it, the person has to sell away all his other residential properties. So he doesn't have any other properties for, let's say, to rely on for rental income. So there's quite a number of issues which might explain why the CCA is undersubscribed for the last 3 years.
As far as we know, I think you're not allowed to buy like a private property, whether is it in Singapore or overseas within the MOP period, right? The
So the
minimum
first 5 years, right?
occupancy period. But after that, you are allowed to actually buy a private property. It's just that you have to stay in the community care apartment. So in a way, you can kind of still go outside of the community care apartment route, even if you have one, and still use that as your rental income, your passive income.
But by that time, the person, even if he applies at 55 or 56, now he'll be in his 60s.
Yeah.
He won't be able to get a loan. So that means whatever property he buys, and quite likely it will be a private property condominium at a higher price than today, and he has to pay 100% of the price as cash. So that is quite daunting for some people who are now living in CCAs.
The reasons that you painted, I feel that has already been explained to people when they bought Harmony Village, right? So they knew that these were the conditions. They knew that they were, they shouldn't be seeing this as capital appreciation. So why did that demand drop from Harmony Village, which was 4 times oversubscribed, to now, I think in Fernvale Plains, the latest one, was only 0.7?
One of the reasons could be that seniors also have more options. And of course, the other thing is perhaps one reason why the government lowered the cost is due to feedback. They probably have some sort of community outreach and then get some feedback from people. And one of the challenges is actually the cost of the care packages. So all this they probably put into place. But we also have to see, and the information is not really complete from the public side, is who are the people who actually apply to CCA.
Okay.
Because if, let's say, someone is middle class or above and they live in either private property or 4-room or 5-room HDB flat, they have options, right? You can rent out spare rooms, you can downgrade, sell your private property and so on. You may not want to go and live in a CCA unless it's totally necessary. Because one thing about CCA is that it's supposed to be a bridging property between a nursing home and living independently. And perhaps some people might feel that they are not really ready for that, or they have options, other options, living with children and so on, than to go to a CCA.
So in a way, it's almost like a last resort. If I have no other options, then I go and apply for one of these CCA apartments.
And you don't want to choose a nursing home, basically.
Well, I mean, like it's a step towards a nursing home, right? But you're still kind of independent to a large extent. But that also means that the younger, more able people, again, they would not. I would never consider this. It would, from what I hear now, it would definitely be a last resort for me. I would rather stay at home, and if I can afford to, I would invest in some support systems to come to my home. And then, of course, with all the grants, I can build my own grab bars and get all those in as well. So Kelvin, maybe So does this then make sense to have CCAs like this?
Well, I visited the Bukit Batok CCA a couple of times. Brought programs there, for example, activities like drumming and music, and I feel that those who chose the CCA option at Bukit Batok, they really like the place. A few of them came from apartments where they stay with kids, and they don't want to feel that they are burdened to their kids. So they moved out of their present housing to CCA, make new friends, and every floor at the CCA in Bukit Batok, they do have 2 communal spaces for those who are staying on the same floor, different floors, to come and enjoy, sing karaoke, play mahjong together. So I think there is a group of people who likes to have interactions with other new friends, and this is one option for them.
But I have to challenge you, because that Harmony Village is also a one-off, because the newer CCAs are not like that. They don't have that environment, not a village. You don't have a community, so you're kind of
they tone down it.
So their centers are further away, slightly further away. It may not be below the block, right?
Well, in some ways, I think Steve is right to say that the newer ones are not going to have so much communal spaces, or the programs for this new CCA, they are actually being directed to the AACs, active aging centers nearby. So it's not so self-contained like below the block, and therefore I think it may make it a bit less attractive for this new developments of CCAs.
Because Harmony Village sounded a little bit more like a retirement village, where you can go there, and you're still able-bodied and independent, but you can mix with others who are like you. Whereas with the new CCAs, I guess they're in mixed-use areas and blocks, right?
So who is it really attracting? Like, I'm just wondering, like, who is this this 55-year-old person, if you can paint for me a picture, a 55-year-old person who would subscribe to CCA.
I think most 55 people who are in their 55 and just below 65, their chances is that they are still working in their 50s, right? Until maybe they plan retirement to retire at 62 or 63. So by lowering the age, I don't think it's going to widen the demand very much, although it does widen the pool of eligible applicants. But I don't think demand will go up a lot. Perhaps it's due to feedback, public feedback. Someone suggests to the government, why don't you just widen the eligibility, lower the eligibility age? And so I think that the other thing, I believe that people who do subscribe to CCA, whichever age it is, they probably are HDB dwellers, empty nesters, and they may feel a need to monetize their HDB flat. They will have to sell it, and then the difference between the sale of their flat and the price of the CCA, and they probably might have some silver bonus, additional financial incentive from the government for them to downgrade or right size to a CCA.
But then again, that will be a very small group of the population.
Which might explain why you get subscription.
But would it help if they change the model? Because CCAs, as we mentioned, it's a lease option now. You can't actually buy it. But I know in some other countries where in retirement homes, you buy your unit, and then if you pass on, let's say 20 years later, you can sell it at market value. So you feel like it's still something that you can leave behind for the next generation. It's a proper investment,
There was one called Kampong at Admiralty.
Yes.
Or Kampong, that one was also quite popular because it's in a way it's an integrated retirement village, right? And with everything, including your hawker center, all bundled into one. Now, I think if the government were to come up with such integrated development, it will be popular again. But it will be also challenging to have such integrated development, retirement village in every town in Singapore.
Why?
Yeah, why not?
Space.
Okay.
One thing is space. Number two is that if you were to put in all these facilities in one development, then other people, the younger crowd will say, why not us? Why are we excluded from applying for, why don't you build 4-room flats here too, so that we can also enjoy all these facilities all in one stop?
Why don't they consider like sort of a, I don't know, like a mixed use?
Yeah,
right?
Integrated into the regular housing.
I know that they're trying to do that right now, so it's not like, one block of only all community care apartments. But I would assume that, this is the government's way of trying to lay out how we can maybe watch out for each other. Is that the
well,
common
actually,
thinking?
the flexi model, it's towards this intergen, so that different groups of age groups can actually stay together with bigger space, right? So to have a different model of a CCA that accommodates different age group or maybe bigger household could be the way to go. Because when we look at other countries like Japan, people don't like to stay in so-called retirement village because it's very stigmatized, right? It's like only old people go there, and then young people go there. It's not attractive to young people.
Even old people don't want to hang out with old people.
Yeah, right. It makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense to be inclusive rather than exclusive to a retirement village sort of lifestyle. Nobody likes that. And that's why I'm teaching, because I can mix with young people and always be stimulated by them. I think this is pretty important. It's a cultural aspect of Singaporean mindset that we need to consider. And we are a multi-ethnic group, right, on the other hand. So I think it's not so easy for Singapore. Sometimes we consider a new housing model to have a good mix. And the government has to constantly be dynamic about this.
But that would make sense. So imagine if every block or every floor there were 2 or 3 units that were this type of CCA apartments, But then your neighbors around you are still, the regular folks. It's just that they equip these apartments with the necessary facilities. And therefore, the socialization, which we all know is so important, it has a big role to play as well.
Why don't they just, I guess, give more subsidies to older people to retrofit their apartments, more. I mean, I know we have these kind of programs like, your HIP, you can ask for like bars and everything. But if this is the vision, why don't they just say, okay, I've identified you as an elderly person. Let's give you more subsidies. Let's do more for your own home. Is there going to be a problem, in terms of the reselling of the property if, let's say, a home gets over retrofitted for an elderly?
Not really, because I've seen people even new HDB flat owners, people who buy resale flats, they are willing to spend a small fortune to retrofit the whole unit, even if the unit is a 2-room flexi flats. So it's not really so much of a hurdle, to turn from an elder-friendly unit into a young family unit. I agree with you. Perhaps the government shouldn't look at just a one-size-fits-all CCA, and it's like, you either take this or nothing. They should also look at not just fitting out the thing, because the other thing is the care package. Because I think for some of the elderly is that they may need some assistance on maybe certain days, housekeeping or cooking or helping to get buy groceries, to bundle into that. And I think right now one of the challenges is scaling, because there's this company that is government owned, but a company no less, that's providing all these services. And if the take-up rate of CCA is very low, then it might be a bit difficult for them to scale out. However, if the government were to make these services more widespread in all the HDB estates, for example, for the elderly, and the elderly can age in place. Because I think, take for example, my parents, they don't want to move to even right sizing and so on, because they're so comfortable living in their estate for the last 35 years, and they just don't want to move, right? Even though the flat is too big for them right now.
It makes practical sense. But what we, should be doing and what we actually want often are not the same thing,
Because there's an emotional attachment.
And it makes sense. You've got your neighbors that you interact with. You go to a new place, you got to make friends all over again. At 75 years old, you're like, wow.
Which is why when Kelvin mentioned about people who want to go and make friends, I'm just thinking, I don't know a lot of old people who want to make friends at that age. I mean, I think it requires a certain personality.
Yeah, I guess sometimes it's not just making friends as friends, but people who share the common interests, right? So when you're a certain age, you play pickleball with young people, they say, this is not my style, right? But then if you want to find pickleball players within your same floor and the convenience is there, I think that makes sense, because we have seen that in other countries like aging Japan, there are interest groups that are formed by an older person, and they could easily huddle together, go hiking, etc. And there's a sense of convenience. And the other point I want to talk about CCA is that it has been a successful model in the early run out, because there is a managing agent, right, of sorts, that takes care of the program, takes care of your assisted needs. For example, if you need maids or helpers to go to your unit to clean up, there is this managing agent, almost similar to a condominium, right? Where you have a managing agent to take care. MCST of sorts. So I think it's attractive. In fact, when my friends from overseas came and they look at the CCA, they kind of like it, the one at Bukit Batok. And I think it's a successful model, which gives the government confidence.
But the new model we're talking about doesn't really offer that. Is this something that the industry could push towards the private sector, because if there are enough units within an area like Telok Blangah, for example, then I can make a business out of delivering meals every day, or doing laundry every day, or sending groceries every day, right?
Yes,
I mean,
and with demand, there'll be supply.
Well, the Red Cloud model is one of the models that try to help the older person to rent out their spare rooms as units, and then therefore they could have new friends, for example, and then they could have foreign domestic helpers that they can share among those who are staying in the same unit. But it's also not a perfect model, because a lot has got to do with human relationships.
Which is
that's the most difficult bit.
Clearly,
I think I'd like to take out what Steve had brought out just now. It's about the ownership of CCA, right? Right now, it's basically renting it from the government. But if let's say they can be something like the 2-room flexi flats, you can sell on the resale market, or sell to the next eligible buyer. And at least there could be some capital appreciation. The person can also still will it, if it's going to pass away, will it to their estate or their next of kin, right? I think that might also increase the appeal of CCA.
But as we have seen, when you leave it to market forces, the greed of men will step in, and then people will start, inflating their own prices, and it will be no different, I would say, from the usual resale market, which is not what this is intended for, right?
I was reading this article about the survey that was done in the United States among seniors, and those seniors are worried that they'll run out of money. In fact, there was this line that says, the fear of running out of money outweighs the fear of death. So people are more afraid that they will run out of money
That's the worst,
first.
right? Be alive and no money.
Yeah, of course. What am I going to eat for the rest of my life?
Yes, we have a very high home ownership rate in Singapore, almost close to 90%. So if you are asking some of these seniors to sell away their HDB flats or if they have a investment residential property, to sell it away, and they are depending on this as some sort of a rental income, then next thing is what are they relying on? They are basically their savings, their CPF, and then that have to last them for the rest of their life. So that might be one of the hurdles that cause some of this eligible group to resist buying a CCA.
Although if they were staying in their own home, it means they also don't have any spare cash because it's all tied up in the asset, right?
Yes.
But I think if they could purchase the CCA apartments, then you can even choose whether you want a slightly bigger one, a smaller one, what kind of facilities. I think you get a bit more of a sense of ownership because it's truly yours.
We shouldn't just look at things so pragmatically as this is an asset, but rather look at it as if I move there, what is my quality of life, right? I could have a lot of space, I could have the asset, but I can't enjoy my quality of life. So the mindset of trying to hold on to a property and not realizing that if you had a little bit more cash to enjoy life, and what is enjoying life in the Asian context has got to make a change. I believe as we have new cohorts of older person, they are no longer thinking the way that their parents or grandparents think about life.
Yeah.
Are there other ways that we can make these CCAs more coveted? Because I am an extrovert, so I am okay with making friends. But honestly, if I'm in my 60s, I think I just want to hang out with my girlfriends.
So get them all to move with you.
Right. But at the same time, will we reach that point where it becomes so highly coveted that my girlfriends will want to come and, stay together, and then we can, do our pedicure and manicures together.
So you almost want to get to that
I want to, but at the moment I don't see that model heading towards that.
Because one of the things is that all the CCAs are all the small format type of flats. Right. Why can't they have something, whether you're single or widow or widower, or you're a couple, they give you the same size. Why can't they have different sizes of CCA, including two-room flexi flats, right? Or something even maybe larger so that the grandchildren can come and stay over. Right now, that option of grandchildren coming to stay over is out because the size is just too small.
So that's what many, especially retirement villages or nursing homes have, or even hospitals. You can choose your A-class ward, your B-class ward. So if you are willing to pay, then you have an option.
And the CCA is also competing against the two-room flexi flats because the government is also making two-room flexi flat easier. They are allocating a certain quota of every batch of BTO. The two-room flexi flat, the priority is given to seniors. Then the remainder are given to the singles above 35 years old. Now, because of this, from a senior perspective, is they have options. Why not go for two-room flexi, which is also more readily available across the island, right? If let's say there are 7 BTO projects in 5 different towns, there are usually two-room flexi flats in all these 5 towns. While for CCA, it's only one place.
So the CCA and the two-room flexi flats, in a way, are competing in the same band, right?
Well, the difference is there's no managing agent to help with the flexi room model versus a CCA where they have a sort of managing agent to take care because there is volume for them to provide services to those who are staying in that block.
But currently, the upside of those services do not seem to be something enticing enough for people to say, okay, that's a reason
if
to
you're
go.
a young senior.
The whole issue here is about different types of housing options for our graying population, right? For retirees. So right now, CCA is one option. Why I'm suggesting that the government should relook, and not so rigidly, but to also make certain features of CCA available to two-room flexi flats, which is often rolled out in every BTO as well. And with all the features as well as the services, the CAS packages. So why not? Why must it be either CCA or nothing?
Yeah, I agree. You should be able to live anywhere, but once you reach a certain age, and I say, okay, I offer you this basic care package. If you want, there's package A, which will come with this. Package B will have extra 5 things. Package C, and then it will come to your house every day or whatever, you know what I mean? But then you I like the option of choice, and I can make my own decisions rather than going to one fixed place with fixed items.
I think that's what they are trying to do with this basic service package, because they're trying to saying that, you have the bare minimum and then you can do your add-ons. But this conversation, I guess, has also shown to me that it's really, again, it's not meant to be shoved down people's throats and to say this is your only option. Like, if you have a certain budget and you can afford, then just go for the 2-room flexi flat option. I mean, if you have sentimental, value over your current property, then stay and work towards getting live-in help. And if you don't have any of that, you need help, then CCAs.
But on the other hand, I think the government is trying to make it available more geographically around Singapore, like Toa Payoh and Fernvale, etc. So maybe there are still people who like the sense of belonging to their neighborhood in Ang-Mo-Kio, for example, or Toa Payoh, and they say, okay, CCA options are available there. It's near to MRT. I don't have to be so far away from places I'm familiar with. It probably will be attractive to them. But you're right. I mean, rather than just have the limited size of CCA, let's have a bit more different size options so that, when my friends and families are visiting me, they can't accommodate in my small studio unit. I have to go find somewhere else to meet up with them.
I remember visiting a retirement home or nursing home overseas, and they even had guest rooms that family will come to visit from overseas. You can stay and rent a room for 2 nights.
Oh, you have to rent.
You have to pay. You have to pay. But I mean, it just makes so much sense. So in other words, they're looking at a bigger picture. It's not just the individual and the room and their needs alone.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like we need to. It's a good option to have, but it sounds like maybe we need to improve on the way it is shared with people out there, so it doesn't especially compete with the flexi room flats in such a direct way.
That's right.
Well, I mean, many of us are getting older. I'm getting my CPF very soon too. So
congrats.
I don't know. Is that something to happy about?
Celebration.
You guys been there already? Yeah, never mind. But yeah, if you have thoughts about this issue, do let us know. We do love to hear from you. Otherwise, that's it for this week's Deep Dive. Bye for now.
Bye.